Well, friends and folks, here we are. It's 2024, famously the year before the year of the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. GTA 6 is probably the most anticipated game of all time, and I thought in order to anticipate it even more, I've decided to go back in time and finally play through the old GTA games I never checked out. You see, something I'm a bit ashamed to admit here on the internet is, the very first GTA I ever played was actually GTA 5.
Boo this man!
I was like 11 when GTA 4 came out. My parents were certainly not ready for that, but when 5 released, I was basically a grown-ass man, like 16-ish, and I was ready to handle some crime games. But before this, my actual very first experience with the Rockstar Games game was the Rockstar game Red Dead Redemption. I guess I was kind of old enough to play that. I was like 13, 14-ish, and my parents were like, yeah, you know, it's like a crime game, but it's cowboy crime, so I think it's okay. Let me tell you, I loved Red Dead. It blew my mind. So when Rockstar released their next game, oh boy, I didn't like it. But when they released their actual next game, holy shit, this blew my mind. So I've played GTA 5, and later I went back and played GTA 4, which is pretty good. And I'm going to make a video about both of those, so don't you worry your face. But this video is not that video. This video is about my journey finally exploring Grand Theft Auto's roots, going back and finally playing the classic trilogy that I've never experienced. And what better game to start with but the very first GTA, GTA 3. I did actually plan on making videos about 1 and 2. I got about halfway through the first one, and there were some good ideas in there. The map design was pretty neat, which I know Rockstar is kind of the queen of these days, and the graphics surprisingly hold up, but everything else sucked. There are 6 chapters in this game. It sounds easy, but it's not. Each chapter ends with a very brief cutscene, but to get there, what you have to do is you have to reach this point goal, and the point goal gets higher and higher each chapter, and at the end of every second chapter, you get sent to a new city. So you start off in Liberty City, which is the game's version of New York, and then you move to San Andreas, which is the game's version of San Francisco. Not San Andreas like from San Andreas, which is the Rockstar's version of California. This is San Andreas, just California. This one's just San Francisco, and in the other one called San Fierro, and the city of California is the state of San Andreas. But in this one, San Francisco is called San Andreas. What was unexpected was how San Andreas truly felt like a completely different place. I thought it was just going to feel like the same, but just kind of a different layout, but like the same kind of city. But as soon as I stepped out onto the road, I really felt like I was in California. And they have the people like driving some different cars than they drive in Liberty City, like cop cars and taxis are completely different. There is verticality to the San Andreas map, as San Francisco is known for being very hilly. And so I was absolutely psyched to check out Vice City, but I couldn't get there. This game is way too goddamn hard, and it's not one of those situations where the developers carefully crafted a rewarding challenge. It's not that, it's just the mechanics are awful. Shooting is so bad, you never ever want to do it unless you have to. You have to be so accurate with your shots. If you don't hit the target dead center, the bullets just pass straight through them. You're constantly getting stuck on everything, whether on foot or in a vehicle. If you ever make contact with a building or a street sign or another car, you're going to stick to it like Jordans on a court, even if it looks like you aren't even making contact with it. Again, this happens in vehicles and on foot. You don't get to just like bump up against something and then keep going like in every single other game I've ever played. Also, vehicles explode with almost zero warning. The only indication that your car is going to blow up is that it starts sounding like it's in rough shape, but there's no clear visual indication. And so you're here to earn points, right? The best way to do that is to do these jobs from this payphone, because not only do they have a high payout, but they also increase your score multiplier every time you complete one. The score multiplier is absolutely vital. It would take literal days to reach the target score without a multiplier. So this is where the worst aspect of GTA 1 is introduced. I remember an article coming out around the release of GTA 5 where they were talking about one of the harmful lessons it teaches our children is that getting arrested is actually worse than getting killed, which is so true about GTA 5. When you get killed, all that happens is you wake up in the hospital, you get charged $5,000, and then you're on your way. But when you get arrested, you wake up in the police station, and the police have taken all your ammo from all your guns, so you have to go back to the gun store and re-buy all your ammo, which is way, way more than the $5,000 you get charged at the hospital. Plus the inconvenience of having to go back to the store. Kind of a pain in my balls. But yeah, getting arrested is actually worse in the original. Yes, worse. When you die, all you do is lose one of your lives, which isn't that huge of a deal, but when you get arrested, your score multiplier is cut in half. So like if you spent like 3 hours doing all the stuff and getting your multiplier up to like 12, Make one mistake, and it's reduced down to 6. But you have the get out of jail free cards, you say, if you're one of the 9 people that's played this game. And it's true, these tokens make it so you don't lose your multiplier if you're arrested, but they are a one-time use, so you have to go get another one if you use it, but there's like a probably 20 to 40% chance you'll get arrested on your way to get another token and get fucked anyway. In GTA 5, if you fuck up during a mission, it's like no problem, you just start over from the checkpoint, you just start over from like 5 seconds ago. In the earlier games, if you failed a mission, you had to start over from the very beginning, but here's the thing, in GTA 1, if you fail a mission, it's just, yeah, you failed. Try something else. I don't know. You're fucked. You fucked up. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want me to say. You failed the mission. You failed the mission. No, you can't try it again. Can't try it again. I may have talked about GTA 1 for too long, but the point is that the difficulty is absurd and not fun, and after spending an entire day trying to complete the first chapter in the San Andreas section, I finally reached my point goal. Except unlike the previous chapters, the game wasn't telling me where to go to get to the end of the mission cutscene. Tried seeing if there was a way to trigger it, but nothing was working. It seemed like the only way I was going to complete the game was, starting the entire chapter over, which I was so I decided it wasn't worth it, drove my car off a bridge, boom, and moved on to GTA 2. And I'm going to keep this very brief because I know you're here to hear me talk about GTA 3. Basically, GTA 2 is a better version in every single way. Right off the bat, the presentation a lot classier, the visual style, the menu way more elegant, starts with an actual live action cutscene, not as good as Resident Evil opening live action cutscene, but still pretty cool. Mechanics are way smoother, you don't really get stuck in the same way. The shooting is a bit more forgiving and actually fun to do. The graphics are better, cars will now catch fire for a minute before exploding, so you do have a visual indication of when you need to bail. So I was real psyched to play through this. However, every time I tried, my game would crash after like 15 minutes of playing, and I couldn't do it. I looked some stuff up online, but yeah, I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna move on to the games I actually want to play, and here is my journey, finally playing Grand Theft Auto 3. Except not right away, because the problem is that the only official way to play this game in modern times is with the Definitive Edition. And if you don't know about this Definitive Edition, it's very much not definitive at all because it's missing a ton of content. And also it's not addition, it's more like subtraction because of all the missing content and the issues. Pretty much everywhere I looked, I was told that this release of this trilogy was one of the worst ways to experience these legendary titles. Thought about trying to find some way to get a key for a copy for the original PC version, because I guess Rockstar took down the original version so you could buy the shitty version, but I've heard that requires a bunch of modding anyway, and I don't even know where to look for a key except for like shady Russian websites or whatever, and my PC is really more of a MacBook anyway, so the situation, not ideal. But I'm a big believer in physical media anyway. It's often the only way to access the unaltered versions of your favorite movie or book or album or video game, so I thought about dusting off the old Xbox and buying the trilogy. So I assumed these were basically identical to the PS2 versions, but just a little slightly bit better because games were usually a little tiny bit better on the Xbox back then. But apparently there is a little bit of missing content from at least some of them, and I really felt like it was important to give these games their proper due and only judge them in their purest form. So I went outside my house, down to the local video game dispensary, and bought myself a PlayStation 2 alongside Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. All 3 boxes still had the game manuals in them, and damn, I mean, I remember game manuals being fun back in the day, but I do not remember them being this extensive. The whole thing is set up like a travel pamphlet for the game's setting, Liberty City. It introduces you to stuff like important locations, major characters, everything about the radio and the stations and that kind of crap. They really went all out with this thing, which you never see nowadays, except in those big-ass, stupid-ass collector's editions, big old box of stupid collector's edition. Not even Rockstar includes these anymore. However, Rockstar is still known for including a physical map in the game box, but mine was missing. Yeah, I bought these used, obviously. Vice City and San Andreas actually did both have the manual and the map still in the box, but 3 only had the manual. But really, I was still pretty happy because I wasn't expecting any of this stuff to still be in the box, and it's not like the paper map is ever actually going to be used when you have an in-game map. So, when I was finally done plugging all this stuff in to get my capture card to capture PS2 footage, it was time to slide in the disc. In Grand Theft Auto 3, you are Claude. Claude does not speak. He also doesn't have a name. His name is never spoken in the game, and apparently people started calling him that because the guy in GTA 2 was named Claude, and I guess people thought that it was the same guy, so eventually they started calling this guy Claude officially, and he's probably a different character because GTA 3 is set in a different universe than 1 and 2, so maybe it's like the same guy but a different version of the same guy. Like in GTA 1, there's this character called El Boro, but he's not related to this character called El Boro from GTA 3 because they're set separate separate, but like it's kind of like they're like the same guy but in separate. So it's like Claude could possibly be Claude, the same guy but on a separate timeline. At the start of the story, Claude is left betrayed and heartbroken when his girlfriend/robbery accomplice, along with this other guy, shoot Claude during a robbery and frame him. And I guess also they leave him for dead. The framing seems to have worked. I mean, he was part of the robbery, but he failed to die. So on his way to jail, his car is ambushed. It's the Colombians. They're here to break some other guy out, but Claude and this other guy, 8-Ball, take this opportunity to make a break for it. And also there's a bomb, and the bomb blows up the bridge. And Claude and 8-Ball find a car and head for a place to hide out, with Claude now on a bloodthirsty quest for revenge against Catalina and her partner, the other guy. He must find a way to get to them. Story in this game is not that impressive. Basically, Claude needs help finding his revenge, so he kind of just goes around Liberty City and asking other criminals for help with various things, and they pretty much just say, yeah, I'll help you out, but I need you to do 9 things for me first. Usually you do the missions for them, and then this culminates kind of sometimes into like an important story moment. Like one of the jobs you do for the Mafia is to tail this informant, and after you tail him, you find out who he was informing was Catalina. And the Mafia is like, hell yeah, brother, just do one last thing for me real quick and you'll be made a made man, and you can kill her or whatever you want to do, my guy. Just take care of one thing real quick for me and the world's gonna be yours. But it turns out betrayal! Don Salvatore actually set up a trap for Claude to kill him, because for some reason, I don't know why, but the Don's little girlfriend Maria, who you help out in a few early missions, for some reason told the Don that she was messing around with Claude, even though I guess that isn't even true. But now the Mafia hates him and he doesn't get to be a made man, but just like, that's not even that big of a deal, because like being a made man doesn't even really mean anything in the current year of 2001. Back in the day, it basically meant like no other families could whack you without the permission from your daddy. It's kind of like an invincibility card when every gang in the city was just a different Mafia family, but nowadays in 2001, the Mafia is just a small percentage of the many gangs and criminal organizations in Liberty City, and none of them need permission from the commission. But more importantly, the Leone family's now after him, which means it's really hard to get around this part of the city right here, and he has to start all over on his quest for revenge. But Maria, in order to make up for ruining Claude's entire plan and almost getting him killed, hooks him up with her Yakuza friend with benefits, Asuka Kazan. So Claude does a little bit of that Yakuza work, including taking down the guy who tried to blow him up earlier, Don Salvatore Leone. These Yakuza guys, they are really helping you out, but apparently Claude is just an absolute scumbag, because soon you meet this guy, Donald Love, and he wants Claude to kill some of the Yakuza who have been helping him so that he can start a massive gang war, and I guess to bring down real estate prices so he can build more buildings more cheaper, and Claude is just fully down to help with this. Soon it turns out Maria has been kidnapped by Catalina nonetheless, who demands Claude bring her $500,000 in exchange for Maria. Claude does meet up with Catalina, who then says,
"The real question is, did you turn up to rescue Maria or to get me back?"
Like, yeah, he was definitely only here for revenge. He doesn't care about Maria or anyone else. Then he does get his revenge. He blows up Catalina in a helicopter, and he also saves Maria, since I guess just because she's right there. And as they're walking away, she's kind of being annoying or something. And as the credits roll, we hear a gunshot, which implies that I guess Claude blew her head off anyway. So yeah, he doesn't care about nobody. He's hardcore. Kind of just seems like Rockstar didn't think anyone was going to care about the story. There's very little flow. Claude pretty much just does a bunch of random stuff, and then he stumbles upon someone who can help him sometimes. Characters weren't given very much thought. Claude is pretty much just an avatar for the player and has nothing going on behind the eyes. The population of Liberty City just randomly shout out a small collection of phrases. My favorite was when people would just shout, "In the Navy."
In the Navy.
With no follow-up.
In the Navy. In the Navy. In the Navy. In the Navy.
I do not wish to hear about what you got up to in the Navy.
They did get some real-life actors to play some of the side characters. Donald Love is played by Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks. We got Michael Madsen from Bounty Law, Frank Vincent and Joey Pants from something called The Sopranos. But a lot of these characters just don't get a proper resolution. Donald Love kind of seems really important to the world of the game, but then when you go to see him one time, it's just like he's not there, and then Claude looks inside this box and it's like, oh my god, an empty box, and then he's gone, and they don't say anything about that anymore. And my favorite character, Asuka, just dies off screen, and the game barely even tells you. When you find out Maria was captured, there's also a body on the ground over there, and it's like, that's Asuka? Oh, I guess she died. Okay. Thoughtful character arcs, not a consideration in games like this back then. It's clear that the story pretty much only exists to guide players into experiencing the world of the game. But But that's fine, because when the shit came out, people were not buying this game because they wanted a satisfying resolution to Asuka's character. They were buying it to experience the freedom, the world, the chaos now possible thanks to all the sweet, sweet RAM of the PlayStation 2. It's very difficult for me to illustrate to you just how mind-blowing this open world was at the time, which is mostly because I don't understand it either. But I was determined to understand how amazing this game would have been back then, and you know what? I think I mostly succeeded. If you view Liberty City as like essentially, basically, pretty much kind of just like the first open world city ever in a game, it really helps you appreciate all of its achievements and helps you kind of disregard some of its flaws. Its resemblance to New York City is pretty minimal. There are 0 famous landmarks, not even a Statue of Liberty, just kind of a city in America, separated into 3 islands that unlock as you progress through the story, which I think is a neat way of incentivizing players to check out the story missions, because like I said, a lot of the players just bought this back in the day so they could fuck around in the open world, but you don't get access to all the locations or the best ways to fuck around unless you play the story. The first island is called Portland. The vibe is grimy, crimey, and industrial. The decaying buildings and dead storefronts make you feel like you're always in the wrong part of town. The atmosphere is thick and oppressive. It'd be hard for residents of this town to wake up every day with any semblance of hope in their heart. I mean, look at these people, always just meandering around back and forth like NPCs in a video game. However, just across the river in Staunton Island, where we see the bleeding edge of American culture as it was 20 years ago. Brand new high-rises with modern architecture, fast cars, commerce, nightlife, construction. This is the place where it's all happening. Yeah, there's just as much, if not more, crime, but it's the classy kind of crime. The crime that's committed by a guy high up in a fancy office in a fancy suit, not in a dirty alley. Portland could often feel pretty creepy, but Staunton Island is bustling enough that you never feel that same sense of foreboding isolation. The vibe shifts once again at the end of the game in Shoreside Vale. Here things still feel quite wealthy, but with the nice houses and all the space. You have the airport here, which is pretty big, but there's like very little to do here. And then there's also this area, which looks super tiny if you just look at it from the map, but somehow was impossible for me to navigate. And the only safe house in Shoreside Vale is here, so you can't just avoid this area. And somehow I never learned to get around this tiny 2-block area. But you know, I'll just pull up the in-game map right here and find my way out of here to the map here. Yeah, there's not one. There's no map in the game. There's a mini-map in the corner down there, which is better than nothing, I guess, but just barely better than nothing. Yeah, it turns out the paper map Rockstar always includes with their games actually used to be an absolute necessity, and I didn't get one. Luckily, we live in the age of online computer phones, so there are plenty of external options for a map, but imagine buying this game in 2001, used, and it didn't include a map. Sure, maybe your mom has a computer at work that has both internet access and a printer, but I don't think she did, so you'd pretty much have to just guess where you're supposed to go. Like, yeah, the mini-map, it points you in the general direction of where you're supposed to go, but you have no idea where you're actually headed, and without a map to reference, my guy, just give up. I mean, there are plenty of dated aspects of the game design, but the map thing has to be suspecto numero uno, because it's not just like you don't have access to the exact optimal route to your destination, it's that plenty of times you literally do not know what your destination is, and it's pretty frustrating when the map is divided into islands. Like, the mini-maps say, like, okay, your destination's this way, so you start driving that way, but then you reach the edge of a cliff and you're like, oh, okay, I see, I needed to get to the bridge over there, or the tunnel over there, and drive to that other island. And even it sucks even more when the mission has a timer, which plenty of them do, because, like, then you wasted your time driving all this way, and you need to be driving all that way, but then the timer's run down, and so you've already fucked it up. Almost every mission requires a couple trial runs, so you can know what you're actually supposed to do. You gotta kind of play through it a few times and scout it out. Like, the first few times you fail a mission, pretty much probably not because of a skill issue. It's because you had not yet learned what the actual mission is. Like, you get the opening mission cutscene and someone's like, hey, go talk to Tony, but what you don't realize yet is that Tony's actually all the way over here, and you actually needed one of these cars to get into Tony's gate, but you can only find those cars in this section of the map, so you actually have to go back there, but sorry, there's only 90 seconds left on the timer, so I don't know, try, I guess, but I'd restart the mission, because you fucked up. You didn't know you were supposed to get one of these fucking cars to get through Tony's gate? Fuck you! So you gotta kind of play through them to kind of learn the ropes of the mission a little bit. Like, here's this infamous mission where you have to blow up a plane before it touches down at the airport. So you drive here on a boat, this is where it tells you to drive to, and you have to blow up the plane with a rocket launcher. And like, goddamn, this mission is as hard as everyone says. I mean, for the life of me, I could not hit that plane. I tried over and over and over, but I had zero luck. But then I realized I was looking at the wrong goddamn plane. I needed to shoot down this tiny plane over here, but the game doesn't really tell you that. It says plane touching down, here's the time limit, shoot the plane. Kind of tells you it's over here on the map, but you have no idea where that is in relation to you. And once I realized what plane I was actually supposed to shoot, I did it in one try. But this trial and error approach is not fun, and it's certainly not fast. Not only do you have to do most missions several times, and not only do you have to start them from the beginning no matter what, but you also have to find your way back to the person who gave you the mission in order to start it over every single time. Like this other infamously difficult mission, Espresso to Go. Here you have to drive around and destroy 9 coffee stands within the time limit. Seems simple, except they're all around the map and there's no indication of where they actually are. I mean, if you drive right next to them, then it'll be marked on the minimap, and they show up on the minimap if you drive right next to them. But that's only if you drive right next to them. So even if you spend a full 8 minutes getting most of them and you fail, well, fuck you. Here you are on the map, so go ahead and just drive back over here so you can start the mission again. Then hope you just remember all the locations, because even if you got most of them, you'll have to start over. Hey, 7 of 9. Is that a Star Trek reference, you sly dog? Can you believe GTA 3 came out the same year Star Trek Voyager ended? Kinda makes you realize how goddamn old this game really is. Oh, and some of the missions can only be started at a certain time of day. Like, yeah, this guy's only in his office between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., so come back then. So when you fail a mission, not only do you have to find your way back to the start of the mission, but then you also just have to wait a couple minutes, just kind of wait, stand there, and then he'll show up eventually. I know the idea here is to make it feel more immersive, because often in real life, people are only in places for a certain amount of time, but it's not immersive. It's just waiting. I'm not immersed by the waiting. See, the thing about the hard missions is that I spent far more time trudging my way back to the start of the mission than I did actually playing the part of the game that I was having trouble with. I die, then it takes 3 minutes to get back to the start of the mission, another 3 minutes to drive to the combat section, and then when I get there, I die within a few seconds. And my punishment is just that I have to waste another 6 minutes driving. And you will have trouble with the combat because, boy, what the fuck are these controls? You think, okay, third-person shooter, those mechanics are usually pretty standard, right? I mean, hold left trigger to bring up the targeting mode, use the right stick to aim, use the right trigger to fire. No. Here's how they do it in GTA 3. Hold down R1 to bring up targeting mode, which locks onto the nearest target. You have no choice in the matter. Then instead of free aiming with the analog stick, you instead have to use R2 and L2 to cycle through targets, and then when you get to the target you want to shoot at, press circle to fire. This is worse than GoldenEye. And because of PS2 graphics, a lot of the time, it's really hard to see who you're actually targeting. So it takes a second or two to get your bearings, but you almost never have a second or two, because your health goes down so fast when you're shot at, and there's no cover system, so you just have to tiptoe out from behind a wall, aim your gun, and just pray your automatic targeting system selected the guy you wanted to shoot. You do get free aim when you're using a scoped weapon like a sniper rifle. And I'm not mad about how stiff this feels because it's old, and I'm not mad that you have to aim with the left stick instead of the right stick. However, I am mad that the aiming controls are inverted and there's no way to turn it off. I understand that for some reason some psychos prefer inverted controls, and that's fine, but the way my brain works is that down means down and up means up, so like the one area where the shooting would have been somewhat doable is fucked for no reason. Again, why can't I just turn off inverted aiming in the settings? Here we are in another one of these infamously hard missions where you have to team up with 8-Ball and take out all these guys on the boat so he can run up there and plant a bomb and blow up the boat, except he doesn't wait for you to take them all out. As soon as you shoot the first guy, he just starts running full blast onto the boat, and you have to take these other guys out so fast because he's running into them completely unarmed, and he dies so fast. And it would be hard enough to hit these guys in the short amount of time, but then add on the fact that whenever you point your gun up, it goes down instead. Why not make it so when you point the stick up, it looks left, and then you point the stick down, it looks up, and when you point the stick left, it looks north? Why not do that? Why not do that? Luckily in this mission, I did find a solution. See, instead of going all the way up to the rooftop to snipe these guys, just stop on the stairs about halfway up. That way you're going to be on the same plane as most of them, so after you take out the first 2 guys, you pretty much only have to worry about aiming left and right, and you are free from having to worry about up and down. So the interesting thing about the missions here is that there often are a lot of workarounds for the really hard parts. You just kind of have to think outside the box. These days, Rockstar has a reputation for making their games far too linear and constrictive. Like, okay, sneak up to this guy's office, and I'm like, alright, office is right here, let me climb up onto this roof and sneak around. No! Mission failed! No! You gotta take the stairs to sneak into his office. Failed! You wanna use your sweet new repeater for this train robbery? Too bad. We're gonna force you to equip the shitty old repeater because we didn't realize you'd have the good one at this point in the game. No, stop. You get the shitty one. You don't get the good one. Take the shitty one. I'm chasing a guy's car. Let me shoot his tires out so I can catch up to him faster. No, you don't catch up to him. You're not supposed to catch up to him. You're just supposed to chase him for a while until his car is scripted to stop. There's no way to catch up to him. Ooh, North Yankton. This looks like a pretty cool town. Let's see what's over here. Mission failed! You were supposed to make it right! You definitely get more freedom here. You aren't punished for creativity. Like, I was having trouble with this street race here. All the other guys had super fast cars I didn't have access to yet, so I decided before the race starts to park a bunch of cars in front of the other racers at the starting line to see if this would give me the edge. And it did indeed give me the edge until I lost the edge looking behind me to see whether or not I had gotten the edge. And you can often claim a pretty big advantage before shooting sections by first hanging back and shooting as many people with a sniper rifle as you can before running in. But there are also a lot of gameplay moments where you have so little control over what's happening, sometimes failing and succeeding feels completely random. Any mission that involves throwing grenades is pretty much luck-based. This is one here where you have to blow up trucks with grenades. You just have to kind of hope that the timing of the truck happens to coincide with the timing of the grenade blowing up when you threw it there. There's no way to really tell exactly where you're throwing the grenade. You just kind of shuck it, he just kind of throws it. In the mission where you have to kill Salvatore, I thought I failed on my first attempt, and as he drove away, I was just standing there waiting for the mission failed screen to come up, but then it said mission passed, and I have no idea what happened. I guess I must have hit his car with the shot I missed, and that damaged it enough so it blew up later. Driving, definitely way easier and way more fun than shooting. Instead of triggers, you use the face button for forward and backward in cars. I guess the reason for this is that on the PS2 controller, the face buttons are pressure sensitive, while the triggers are not. Controllers today usually the opposite. Yeah, the pressure sensitive buttons never really worked for me. I just couldn't really ever tell how far I needed to push it in to give minimum input, and I pretty much always just ended up holding the button down all the way. Oh hey, and here's something that sucks. You can't look around with the analog sticks, no sir. You have to use the triggers to look left and right, or hold them both down to look behind you. I never got the hang of this. Cars are also highly destructible. You can easily smash it up beyond repair after just 2 or 3 minor collisions. And if you take a turn too hard or something, it ends up flipping over, and if it flips, you have to get out and run away as fast as possible because they pretty much explode immediately once they're flipped, which can be really annoying when you need a certain car for a story mission or something, and you're having a perfect run, and then you just go over a bump in some weird way, and the car flips, and there's just nothing you can do about it except sit there and wait for it to explode so you can fail the mission and try it all again. Cars also blow up if shot too many times, which is fair, but in practice, it creates a lot of, once again, excessively difficult scenarios that I don't think the developers intended. Most parts of the city are gang territory, so when you're driving through, gang members will shoot at your car. Mostly no big deal, except in mafia territory where all the mafiosos carry shotguns, which seem to be able to blow your car up instantaneously, usually without even the flaming engine thing to let you know that you need to bail. You're just driving along and then BAM! You're dead! Getting any collectibles or doing any side quests that involve coming over here just get their difficulty cranked up to 11 once the mafia becomes hostile. Getting around on foot, probably even harder, because getting hit with a shotgun knocks you down, and while Claude takes a sweet-ass time to get up, usually another guy shows up and shoots you, and there'll be 2 guys there every time, and they just take turns shotgunning you, and you get stun locked and die, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. It's just really annoying when you fail a mission because of something that feels like an oversight, like the one where you have to protect a guy as he charges headfirst into a bullet storm, or how allies really make a meal out of slowly, calmly walking into your car as you're getting shot at / arrested. I feel like even for the time, the gameplay is pretty unrefined, because there are games from back then that I feel like hold up super well mechanically, like Halo Combat Evolved, Mario Combat Evolved, and Nokia Snake. But once again, I feel like every aspect of the gameplay, even the driving, were really just thought of as a tool in your toolkit to cause chaos in this living, breathing city. All this just needed to be good enough in order to let players finally realize their fantasies of mercilessly cutting down innocent civilians in the funniest ways they can think of. This franchise has definitely garnered a lot of controversy from various groups. Back in the day, parents would say things like, "How dare you make a video game for adults and allow me to buy it for my children, you sick fuck." And this is pretty much the title that started all of that. There were, of course, GTAs before this, but this is the first one that actually felt like real life. It's funny, I think even to this day, Rockstar's art style has a bit of a cartoony non-reality to it. Everything's a bit exaggerated. Going back to the first game, those cutscenes that featured those bowling alley animation freaks of nature, and things are pretty much just as wacky here. Like, look at the official artwork of these characters. Some of these bizarre looking NPCs. Like I said, there's a stylized look to all of Rockstar's game, but this one is full-on cartoon world. I can see so much more of the roots of the franchise's identity here than I did in the previous games. Great example of this is the radio, which is a huge part of every entry now, with so many songs on any given soundtrack to be forever somewhat associated with their games. And yeah, the older games also had a radio, but to me it just kind of felt like a way to throw more noise into an already noisy game. From what I understand, GTA 3's radio was the result of a lot of things happening to fall into the right spots. What I've heard on the streets is that Laszlo, who eventually became a huge deal at Rockstar, just ended up becoming friends with the GTA 3 development team out of pretty much sheer chance, and ended up hosting the talk show radio station in the game, as well as bringing in a lot of friends and colleagues to do voices for the DJs and commercials on other stations, and was responsible for a lot of the musicians who appear on the soundtrack. I guess that's because so many of the songs were original music written for this game. Nowadays, GTA can have industry titans like Dr. Dre just show up and drop some new music in the game, but it feels so special to hear all these little artists from the early 2000s make up most of the soundtrack. Feels like the coolest guy at my job gave me a secret little CD with a bunch of underground artists on it. Ultimately, almost nothing about this game has aged well. This isn't isn't one of those games like SNES that you have to go back to and play because it's going to be some incredible experience. This is something you play for academic purposes. And with that in mind, I really feel like buying a PS2 to play this was the right move. I talked some serious shit about the controls, the graphical limitations, the hardware limitations that make it like, oh my god, I need a car right now, I'm getting shot at, but I guess there isn't enough RAM on this thing to load a car into the environment, but please, I need a car, please, right now. And something like the PC version or the definitive edition do remedy a lot of these complaints, but you know what? Fuck all that. I feel like this janky bullshit is part of the game. Kind of like cheesy special effects or cute mistakes in old movies. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game and ended up walking away with a huge smile on my face. I really gained a deeper appreciation not only for the GTA franchise, but for the history of gaming as a whole. And I think if I had gotten a more updated version of the game, sure, I could still say I played GTA 3, but I would not have truly experienced GTA 3. So then I decided to check out the definitive edition anyway, and now I remember when this collection released, and it was absolutely torn apart for three main reasons. Number one, they were missing some important content, mainly a lot of songs that are closely associated with the games were just ripped out. Number two, the actual remastering mostly consisted of paving over the unique graphics and art style of the original with an AI program that they just slapped on top and called it a day with seemingly zero quality control. And number three, it was made borderline unplayable due to the severe amount of bugs. So in the 2 years since its release, some of these issues have been addressed, but this collection is pretty much infamous now for being one of the most insulting repackagings of a beloved work ever put to market. So naturally, I wanted to check it out for myself, and I'll share some quick thoughts. First off, I didn't touch the other two games in the trilogy yet, so this isn't my thoughts on the whole collection, just my thoughts on the remastered version of GTA 3. Honestly, I don't think the definitive edition is that bad. It seems like most of the bugs have been ironed out, not that this excuses the state this game was in upon release, plus it's still buggier than the PS2 original from over 20 years ago, so nothing is forgiven. But it was totally playable. And at first glance, the game definitely looks way nicer, but again, most of the work wasn't done by hand, and the AI program doesn't recreate everything perfectly. Like this here. Pretty sure this is supposed to be transparent glass in the original. Character models mostly look better, some of them look way worse, and unlike the other two games in this package, none of the songs are missing from the GTA 3 soundtrack. There really isn't any missing content here, but what you are missing out on is the atmosphere. So much of my time spent exploring Liberty City on the PS2 felt dark, creepy, foreboding, lonely, wet, ominous, dangerous, and oppressive. In the remaster, the vibe honestly feels pretty chill and cool most of the time. The lighting is certainly of higher quality, but there's no intention behind it, no purpose, other than to provide visibility. I really think the best thing about this remaster are the quality of life improvements. Bumping up the resolution and frame rate is always welcome, as is putting the game into widescreen. The PS2 version had a somewhat questionably implemented widescreen mode. I did end up using it for most of my playthrough because I landed on the thought that it would make better footage for this video, but this version is real widescreen. Also, you have an in-game map, and you can even place waypoints. You have options for different targeting modes, which is really nice, and you can even choose whether look is inverted or not. They added a weapon wheel and a radio station wheel, which just makes the whole experience feel a little smoother. They even added checkpoints to the missions. I mean, they call them checkpoints. Really, they're not checkpoints. It just allows you to start the mission over from the beginning right away if you fail, but it is really, really nice. And it has an autosave. But, like I said before, these improvements are nice, but they take away so much of the experience of pulling your hair out trying to wrestle with the controls in the original, or the pain of being stranded without a car because the PS2 refused to load a car into the environment, and you also miss out on the atmosphere. But actually, there's a new version of the definitive trilogy available right now on your cell phone through Netflix, and they actually included a classic lighting option that does restore a lot of the game's atmosphere. Good job! Why the hell hasn't this feature been added to the console or PC versions yet? I don't want to play this on my phone, I want to play it on my PS5. My phone is old and small and it can barely run this game, and I hate the touchscreen controls, and also, it makes me sign back into my Netflix account every time I open the game. What the hell is that? Somebody, whether it's Netflix or Apple or Rockstar, needs to get their shit together. So this is like a B- remaster. Yeah, okay, could have been better. It seems like it was like a D- at launch. I don't know. I didn't play it then. Right now, still not great. I don't want to sound like I'm letting them off the hook for that, but this game is okay in its current state. But the original, yeah, it's pretty amazing, warts and all. Like I said, this isn't one of those games that's just as good now as it was then, like some of the other entries in the series, but if you approach it more as a case study on an important part of the art form and understand the context of early 2000s culture, it's pretty amazing, and causing chaos in the open world or finally finding a fast car and cruising down the road can be just as fun as it is in modern titles. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe if you want to see more crap like this. Up until now, the only content on this channel was a handful of videos I made years and years ago, but I'm going to start putting out more content, starting with videos about the rest of the games in the series, and then after that, who knows? But I'm going to keep the party going, so come back soon for my next video, where I head on down to Vice City to see how Rockstar Games improved upon what they started, the standard they set in GTA 3. Batman, out!